Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. I hope you're having a wonderful day. You're listening to or watching the Service Business Mastery podcast. I'm your host, Tersh Blissett, sitting along virtually with my co-host, Joshua Crouch. Um, we are going to talk about one of the things that is the bane of a lot of people's existence today. Josh and I, we both, we can, okay, we take this with a badge of honor, but sometimes if you actually listen to the podcast or the book, Ari Meisel's Replaceable Founder, or any of Ari's books, one of the things that he really focuses on is don't do this just to do it and get rid of it because you're going to be hugely in a lot of pain. But that's our inbox, our email inbox, and figuring out how to make it not a horrible experience for everyone. A few things, and let me preface this with, I haven't passed any of this by Yaro yet, so I might be telling you something right now at the beginning of the show that I need to change at the end of the show, by the end of the show. But one of those things is the when I go through my inbox, I have a lot of rules set up. And so, like, if it comes in, it has this person's name, blah, blah, it goes into this folder, or and one of the things that uh, Josh and I both did whenever we finished reading Ari's book was, I created an optional folder. Josh fancied it up some and created a different folder. And if anywhere in the body of the message, it says, unsubscribe or manage your messages and stuff like that, it automatically goes into that folder. So then you're not bogged down with blog posts and a bunch of other things that you really want to see, but you're not really sure. But then your important stuff, it stays in my inbox. And I went ham on this. Okay. So I was like, oh, well, if it came from our CRM, I'm going to automatically send it to the CRM's folder. If it comes from my bookkeeper, I'm going to send it to her folder. If it comes from Julie, it's going to go to her folder. And then my CRM.
How did that go?
Oh, it was horrible. I mean, it was so organized. I was inbox at 0. I was like, done. No inbox, no messages.
Until you didn't answer something that was important.
That's exactly what happened. And then and Christina, she's like, hey, I've been emailing you like 3 times a day, and this is an important thing. And like, she doesn't call me, she does the voice to talk on the text messages. And so she's like, I hit this message and I play her voice, and all of a sudden she's like, I've been emailing you 3 times a day for the past 4 days. I need this information because we have to do this for taxes. And I'm like, I didn't get an email from you. And then I went and clicked on her box, and it's like 100 unread emails. I was like, oh crap. Well, I don't have anything in my inbox, but I also don't have anything to reply to. But I thought that I was like, oh, we can't do that anymore.
You over optimized.
Over optimized. So like, we have a admin at serviceemperor.com, and that email it automatically forwards to everybody in the company or everybody in the office. And it's a lot of just not junk, but just repetitive stuff that I don't really need. So I set it up so that it automatically forwarded into its own folder. Well, I didn't think about the fact that there were clients that would reply to the CRMs, because the CRM says, like, when it emails invoices and estimates and everything else, it says that it came from admin@serviceemperor.com. And they would reply to that email, and then it would come to admin, and then it would go straight into my other folder. And we had a client that had 6 systems that wanted replaced on their roof, but had questions specifically for me. And he said, hey, Tersh, would you call me about this, blah, blah, blah. All the girls thought that I seen the email, so they didn't reply to it. They didn't say, hey, Tersh, did you see the email? They just let it be. And that was like for 2 weeks. And we called him back the other day, and he's like, oh yeah, I figured you got busy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, thank goodness
Thank
that we
God
have
you
a
didn't lose
relationship.
that one.
Yeah, we have a relationship together the whole. But yeah, so over optimization is a major issue for me. But also, one of the things that I did set up, which a lot of our listeners have taken this and kind of run with it too, is for years I've had an autoresponder that says I only check my email twice a day. So if it's an emergency, please give me a call. Call the office or call my cell number. And I give them the office number, but I say call my cell. So if they really
And you
do
don't
know my
put your cell you don't
no, I
put
don't.
your cell phone
Uh-uh.
number on there. Yeah.
If they know my cell number, they'll call it. If they don't, they get to call the office and see the gatekeeper. And I did that on purpose, and that's been great because if I do respond immediately, then they're like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to respond until
Yep.
tomorrow," and
Yep.
so it limits that expectation. But and I don't know if that's a good thing to do either. But we're
Yeah.
gonna hear from Yari with it's inboxdone.com. So this is one of those things where we have hiring a VA, like you get on Fiverr or you get on what's some other ones? Fiverr's kind of my go-to.
Upwork.
Upwork, that's right. I used to use that one a
There's a
lot.
couple others I can't remember what they are right now, but those are like the two big ones.
And they're good for certain things. But then there's certain things where it's like, I don't know how to do this. Like, I don't know how to explain to
Well,
them what I want.
and then it's training them right the way you want, because a lot of
And then
times
training them, and then as soon as they get
we don't
trained,
even
then
have a
they're like
process
gone.
for it. We just do it, right? We don't have a process designated for it. We just do it. So I'm very interested to hear kind of Yaro's story about why they decided to start this business, who it helps, and then what types of maybe tips and other things that we can start looking for, because email inbox is constantly an issue. Like, I woke up this morning, I cleared a lot of stuff up last night, and I woke up and I had like 60 more emails this morning. I'm like, oh my God, like it just doesn't stop.
But
So
after creating that optional folder for me, in 1 week I get over 1,000 emails that go to the optional folder.
oh my God, that's insane.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of those emails are just emails that are stuff that I would like to read, but I don't necessarily need to read it right now. They're like blog posts and stuff like that. And and I'm the world's worst at saying I definitely want to read that, but not right now, and then never go back and read it.
Those sit in my inbox. They just
Yeah.
sit there. And
Mhm.
then eventually I will read them on like a Saturday night. But let's get
That's what
yeah.
you read whenever you go in to the pooper and just
Yeah. Well, let's get Yaro on here and get his take, so we can all start cleaning up our inboxes and live a more productive, or run a more productive business. Welcome, Yaro.
Thanks, guys. That was great. You're just talking about all the problems before we talk.
I'm sure
about solutions,
we only covered like a portion of them.
Yeah. No, that was good.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, both of you guys. I love the phrase you used before there, Tersh. You have a receptionist for your phones, but no one thinks about having a receptionist for their email as well. Like they do what you do, folders and filters. But we like to think of ourselves as basically a receptionist for email, because we're being a gatekeeper. We're defending you from all the time wasting emails. We're making sure you know about the important ones, and ideally we're replying to the majority that don't need your top level sort of management eyes, the more day-to-day routine stuff. But yeah, you covered everything.
Cool. So tell us why you originally started it.
Yeah, how did you realize this was a big problem and needed to be solved in the market?
Just like the story you two told there, I had a company. We're going back about 15 years ago when I first realized email was like the main pain point. Like, before there was concepts like a 4-hour work week, thanks to Tim Ferriss, I was going for that life. I didn't want to be able to travel. I wanted to be able to take my business with me and run it wherever I went. But for that to happen, I needed something that was, well, on the internet, makes it great because you can take it with you, obviously. So that was step one. But then there had to, like, one of the things I thought was pretty scary for entrepreneurs was this idea of a 12-hour work day. They were running their own business, but they've created a job that was worse than working for someone else. So
12 hours, man, that's part-time.
Yeah, it's part-time. Yeah, right. Exactly. So, you're having a holiday.
So true.
So I was like, how do I avoid employment, but how do I avoid this sort of self-employed life that could be even worse? So I was choosing at least the internet for starters, and then a business that ideally I could hire people, build systems, and get myself out of mostly. And I'd done that. I basically had this online editing company, and I hired contractors like Upwork back in the day. Wasn't even
Yeah.
called that, but that sort of thing to deliver the editing services. But my job was sitting in that inbox, and it was especially bad because we would get a job from a client that says, I need this back in 4 hours, right? And of course, we'd love to do that because we charge you 3 times as much for the express turnaround.
Right.
But for me to be able to confirm with the contractor, A, they can do it, B, they can get it back in time, meant I was glued to that inbox because I had to get back to that
You were
message.
glued for the next 4 hours.
Well, I was all day long because
Yeah.
anytime an email like that could hit the inbox, and I had to, really rush to find out if we can do the job. So I loved it, but I also hated it because I traveled, for example, just down to I grew up in Australia, and I lived in a
Breaking up. Hang on a second.
for a conference.
Hey Yaro, is it paused on your end?
No, it froze up just for a second. I got a note
Okay.
here to fix it. Can you,
Okay.
Oh, there you come. You're back. Can you hear us?
I can. I don't know where it dropped,
Okay,
so
perfect.
I shut up.
It said the last thing that I heard was you're from I think it said you said Australia.
Australia, yeah. So
Okay.
despite the Canadian accent, I was born in Australia, and I traveled from my hometown of Brisbane to Sydney for a conference, and I barely got to attend it because I was in and out of back then it was internet cafes. I'm dating myself here, before we had Blackberries or iPhones and so on. And it was just not conducive to the kind of lifestyle I wanted. So straight after that conference, I went back and looked for a solution. And it was weird because, probably like a lot of people, I didn't think email was something anyone else could take over. I just hadn't contemplated that that's something I outsource, even though my entire company was delegated. I delegated the service we sold. I had a website person designing the website. I had a copywriter doing the copywriting. Like, I outsourced all these other tasks, but this kind of main job, which was customer service, but then there was also questions direct to me as an owner, I had never thought of handing that over. So I did. I hired a friend at the time who was a stay-at-home mom, just had her first baby. And I spent a month just teaching her how to do the role that essentially I was doing. I basically handed over 95% of what I was doing to her, which was mostly just answering emails and forwarding jobs between our contractors and our clients. So, and it worked incredibly well. Like, I woke up, I remember on a Monday after that month of training, and turned on the computer. It was next to my bedroom at the time, and there was nothing in the inbox, and I thought something was broken. It was like, what's wrong with our website? And I didn't realize she'd gotten up and cleared the inbox, done all that. And I had a bit of an existential crisis, to be honest, because I no longer had a role, and I was like, what do I do with my life a little bit at that
Yeah,
point?
so,
Isn't that crazy? Like, that's my first thought, is like, what am I gonna do? I don't have any emails to get back to.
Well, I mean, I almost feel like it's a ego driven thing too. Like, can anybody do this as good as I can? And
Yes.
the moment that you realize that you're replaceable, then it's like, all right, might be not as important as I thought I was.
Yeah, or you can write a book, or go exercise, or start another
actually
business,
do something that you were
Yeah.
wanting to do with the whole reason you started the
Yeah.
business is to have a little bit more freedom.
Or grow it bigger. Like, a lot of people think, man, if I only could do this thing, I could double the size of my company, but I'm too busy in the
Yeah.
trenches just making it run. So, yeah. And that's the origin story. And, fast forward many, many years, I had the idea of, in the back of my head, to do that for other people, but it was stayed on the back burner. And then about 5 years ago, I finally felt that I was in the right place to start a new company. And my co-founder, she was actually one of my email managers at the time. She showed leadership skills. I was running like an online teaching, coaching business at the time, and she managed my inbox along with 2 other people. We won like 24-hour reply, so I had 3 inbox assistants at the time. And I said to her, listen, I don't know if this will work. We have a system to manage my email. Now it's well and truly developed. It's like a decade of working on it. Let's see if we can take that and apply it to other small business owners and see if we can, help, whether you're like myself at the time, an online coach style business, or maybe you're running an agency, or even mainstream. Are you a doctor, a lawyer, a dentist, any business you can think of? Does it work in those fields? And then, do people want this? Are they willing to delegate email? Do they see the value in it? Can we charge for it? So we rolled out a behind the scenes sort of test, found two clients as an entry point. They came from my audience at the time, and it worked. And it was amazing too, because those two test clients were polar opposite and very different to me. One was like a libertarian podcast host who had sold, all kinds of services around that. And then the other one was basically a mental health disorder, kind of not a physician, but like a consultant sort of in
Yeah.
that space. So very different audiences, but taking the process of how to delegate email and applying it to them, it worked. They benefited. They were willing to pay for it. I mean, they were super happy to pay for it, because even at I thought a high price at the time, you were talking $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, that in ROI for them was well worth it, because if they get 4 hours a day back, that's a huge return. And what they can do at that time is just massive. So it became a clear value proposition for the right people who are willing to do the delegation, and we've grown it ever since. So we're a team of 35 now, doing that for all kinds of clients and things like that.
So I got a question for you. So to a fault, I answer emails quickly. I try to get things done because I don't want to be the roadblock, right? I don't want to be the reason why progress is stopped. Like, I would hate to have an email sit there for 2 days accidentally and be like, oh, shoot, I never got this to the next person to get this done. So how do you train clients? Because especially with these, your smartphone that you carry with you, you can get email like instantaneous. You get the little ding or the notification. It's like, oh, I got to go answer that. And how do you get clients like myself that they try to answer everything super quick to just back off, like just don't do it anymore, like just hang on a second, somebody's going to do this for you, don't answer everything immediately?
We just take your phone off you. It's a simple solution, Josh.
All right, here you go, you can have it.
Yeah. I will be honest with you, there have been a very, very small percentage of people who simply can't let go. Obviously you find that out pretty quickly when you realize you're just addicted to the messages, and just it's a control issue.
It's a dopamine rush,
and
it is. That's my.
You get that instant hit, and then you want to come back to it, and it's an addiction. I mean, for me, mine's the red dot. I had the red dot addiction. If I have a red dot on something, I'm clicking it.
Click it.
I got to get rid of that thing, and I know that. So there's certain things that I know I'm going to get a lot of Facebook's the worst. I absolutely will not allow notifications to come to my phone for Facebook, because I know I'd be on Facebook all day long clearing those notifications out.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I definitely, as a business owner, I know that I would have to be like, all right, I'm just going to delete the app off my phone completely. And if you need anything, you can text me, and then next time I get to my desktop, I'll look at the email. I know some people who do that anyways. Like my buddy Jesse Cole, he has taken anything like that, anything work related, off of his cell phone, so that he only can do it at his laptop or his desktop, and that way he's not out with his family or anything like that. And then all of a sudden an email chimes on his phone, and it distracts him from doing that.
Oh, yeah, I call them poison sticks sometimes on mobile phones, because it's like spitting out radiation. It's trapping your mind. But I'm the same. I mean, I love the ding of an email, because sometimes it meant I made a sale. So it's a money stick as well, as a business owner. It's that part's awesome. But I mean, you mentioned too, Tersh, earlier at the intro, when you were talking about how you set up all these folders to kind of get yourself to inbox zero. It was funny as you're saying that story. I was thinking it's like when you've got dirty dishes, but instead of washing them, you just shove them all into different cupboards everywhere, and your kitchen's really clean. But then eventually, you
But
just
it's
ran out of
not
dishes.
clean.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
can't do anything work because there's no.
Well, that's like
dishes.
when your in-laws come over for the holidays. You just shove shit in the closet, and
Yeah.
you're just like, "Hey, our house is clean."
It's super clean. Yeah, exactly. So inbox zero. I'm living the dream, right? Yeah, and that's actually those two kind of situations you guys both described, Josh with instant replies to messages and whenever they hit your phone, and Tersh kind of organizing redirects and folders. It's almost like you're putting a band-aid on a problem that you're not really solving. You're ignoring it, or you're trying to do it quickly, but then it's going to keep hitting you all day long, and it's taking away from other things. So and this is why our company Inbox Done focuses on a human being solution, that we give you assistance to actually replace you in those situations, because anything else, whether it's software, workarounds with redirects, it doesn't really eliminate the problem. It just tries to kind of move things around or use software to potentially eliminate a couple of emails, but it's not going to reply for you and actually solve the problem. So for me, it was I had to say to my assistant, I need this to be something I don't do, and I have to believe that you're going to reply to these messages and maintain this inbox better than I ever will. You'll actually become the ninja at this role, where I was
Yeah.
kind of doing it because I have to, but it's not my core role. I was doing all the other things as well with the company. So
How do you so I know that a lot of people are thinking this, and as they're listening to this show, how do you get my brain out of me and how I would respond and put it in someone else's mind, or put it on some sort of workflow that if this happens, then you respond this way, but if this happens, you respond that way? Like
yeah.
how do you learn, how do you know that process, and how long does that interview take? Because that's going to take time. Like your initial setup, that's going to take time, and we all know that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that will throw money at a problem. I'm guilty of doing that myself in the past. So I'll throw money at a problem thinking that's going to solve it, but then come to find out, oh, I have to spend time doing this to set it up and do all this other stuff, and then it's like, ugh,
Yeah,
was it worth it?
and you also highlight a common scenario where you do make the choice to delegate your email to an assistant, but then you go hire from whatever, Upwork, Fiverr, you find a $5 an hour Philippines or Indian
Yeah.
outsourcer, and then you begin, like you say, hey, go do my email. Of course, they just can't go do your email, and then you start teaching them, and you realize, wow, this is more work to fix their errors,
Yeah.
and then actually doing it yourself. So you kind of give
Well,
up.
then you run the risk of them totally messing up a big deal or something with a current client because they didn't understand the instructions behind
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, or you get
So,
sued, or you go to jail because they sent the wrong email.
so what is that process like?
Wait a
I
minute,
guess
wait a minute, wait a minute. We can't cross over that one right there. You got to give us a backstory of that.
No, I don't know, went to jail because of sending the wrong email, but I'm just sort of saying, like,
Okay.
you can imagine there's certain people who work, and we've come across this with our company. We've got venture capitalists as clients who are doing potentially like big multi-million-dollar deals where the financials are going through their email, or you've got a doctor where someone's expressing, private medical information. I mentioned one of our first clients had a mental health business, so you've got people writing to her saying all this personal stuff about their mental health. So it is a very personal, private place too. You can't just say, grab this complete stranger, throw them into the inbox, and hope it works out, for all those potential reasons. So that's all to say, what we did and what we do to clone you, as you kind of mentioned before. It's not there's two sides to this. It is a process we have. It takes a month. We call it the handover process, even longer than a month, depending on how complex your email is. And we actually place you with two people from our team because we want to have redundancy. We hate the idea, and I've experienced that, you guys probably have too, where you train someone and then you've delegated everything to them. Then they say, hey, I've got to take 2 weeks off, and suddenly you're back doing that role. Or even worse, they just
Sure.
leave. I quit. I'm not going to be here next week. And you have, you're back to square zero. You have to retrain someone, and it's just really frustrating. So
Or you never wrote down that process, and so
yeah,
then that person left with your
you didn't
process.
build the system.
Yeah.
So we have not just systems building, but we actually give you two people. They both clone you. They both learn how you work and build the system together, so that when one has a holiday, the other one's backing them up. When one retires, the other one trains the replacement. So we're, ideally not bringing you back in over and over again to keep retraining them. But what they do, and I want to say this without trying to insult anyone, what all of us do in email is not as magical as we think it is. It's not as, genius.
Oh man, you just bruised my ego. I thought I was great at that stuff.
Yeah.
That's an important role in my position.
Yeah. The world ends with you guys don't reply to those emails, right?
Yeah.
So, but I say that because besides, there's always going to be 5%, 2% of emails that, yes, there's a relationship or some unique knowledge that only you have that we can't necessarily extract easily. But 99% of it, we can either learn it because you've already answered those questions in your email. We can go to your sent folder and see how you reply. We can potentially ask other members of your company, or the bookkeeper can answer a question. We can work with the bookkeeper or the website master and make sure things go to them rather than to you as an intermediary. Outside of that, though, if there are situations we hit where we can't solve a problem, we'll just ask you, extract that knowledge, put it into what we call it a knowledge base. So we, over that handover cloning period, they're building a system of templates, which are like a starting point for dealing with common situations. More often than not, we're actually eliminating a lot of the folders. Tersh, you gave a great example as to why. You can create 100 folders, move all your emails into them, but then you've just created 100 inboxes that you never deal with. So we often
That's a great way of putting that, because I probably have about 100 folders myself.
Yeah. And it feels good to put them in there, but then it's where emails go to die, basically. So we usually bring that down to like the 5 or 10 you actually need, or we will need to use. We do a thing called triage as well, where we are asking you, are there certain emails like it's from your husband or your wife or your mother-in-law?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Like, what happens if you have some people who kind of have mixed business and pleasure, and it's like, you come in, it's like, should we just restart this whole email inbox thing here, or is there a painstaking process of actually replying to that person and saying, actually send your information to this inbox over here? Because like with our podcast, before Josh and I, we got a new domain and we set everything up, and I have an email specifically for the podcast. A lot of people were sending podcast related emails to my business page. So my like tersh@serviceemperor.com instead of tersh@servicebusinessmastery.com. And so, but like I'm constantly replying to people and saying, here's the answer you want to your response to your question. But in the future, would you mind please emailing me at tersh@servicebusinessmastery.com? And most people are like, oh yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. But then some people are just like, they don't get the message of like, hey, stop emailing me in this account because I'm not going to respond to you, especially not in the timely manner, and vice versa. So what do you do when you have someone that's basically like what I just described in mine?
Well, the email receptionist story, I think, example is a good way to deal with that situation, because you can't control how people interact with you. They're going to send you stuff wherever they feel like it at that moment, right? So by putting someone as a barrier to that, they're going to be the filter. They're going to process and answer the everyday questions. They're going to be the one who executes the system. So as I was saying before, we build a knowledge base, and that's not just templates. It might be onboarding new clients. So person buys something, then all these things have to happen. Accounts have to be updated. CRM has to be updated. Maybe other team members need to be informed, trigger processes with them. So that we do as well. It's kind of like completing the to-do list that an email generates. And when you feel comfortable knowing that someone else is doing that, then you're left with just a very small amount of actual emails that are for you. It can be even none. Like we have a client who says, I never want to go into my inbox again. So the one or two things that might be needed, like for them, we will let them know in a Slack message, and they'll just say, "Oh, answer it this way," or something like that, or maybe they'll batch process it once a week and just, there'll be a folder with 10 emails in there once a week. They'll do that on a Friday, and that's their email. So
when that's the case, how do you have a clear expectation or limit their expectation of the person that they're going to respond to? If they're going to batch it like once a week, do you say, hey, look, Tersh is not going to check this email for 1 week, or you're not, expect a week to get a reply? Do you do something like that? And does that ever like just completely turn someone off to where they're like, you know what, screw it, I don't need it?
Yeah, not for usually not for 1 week, just because it doesn't sound like great customer service. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Right?
Right.
So it's more often than not, it's there's a person who's going to give a reply, even if that reply just says, "Hey, Tersh has your email and we'll get back to you." We're going to make sure they know about it.
Okay.
That's step one. So that's just customer service 101. Make sure you
Yeah.
acknowledge receipt of a message. But after that, that's what we do, triage. So if we were working with you, Tersh, and we've gone through a cloning process with you, a handover process. During that process, you've told us these types of emails, potential big new clients that have to go through me, can't be handled by anyone else. I need to know when that happens. Maybe it's you have to make sure it's booked into my calendar and double confirm with me that I know about it. It could be like that, or it could be no, tell me the instant it comes in, send me a text message, and I'll get back to it then. And that's 1 out of every 1,000 emails, but that's your critical one. It's like the dying patient in the heart attack. We got to get the doctor straight there, right?
Right.
So your assistants will know to do that for those emails, but the majority are not those emails. The majority are messages that you could probably get back to. Well, actually, the majority are messages you don't need to be involved with at all. Most of them are like, where do you find a resource? How do I buy this? How do I get a refund? How do I book in for something? Where do I find my booking information? How do I change this website data? All that sort of stuff. So that you're no longer involved with. And even better, you're no longer the middle person too. You don't have to like say, take this information, then tell it someone else to do it. It's just, let's get you out of that and let your assistant do it. And then, you're left with the whatever it is. Like I do my email once a month. I go into my folder and I'll see a few messages there that I might reply to that are not like mission critical. I'm going to lose a client type emails. They might just be like, I do some angel investments. I might get an update from one of the angel investment business owners. I want to read that, but I don't have to reply to it. I don't have to do anything with it, but I do want to not miss it. I don't want that to be filed away into a folder where I never see it. It is important to me. So that's the kind of system we build. It's obviously living and breathing though, because you hit new situations all the time.
Yeah, I'm thinking to myself,
that was my question.
There's times where like I get an email, I'm like, well, that's a first. I ain't never got that email before. You know what I mean? I've never had that situation before. And so I'm thinking, if that arises, I would imagine that they're going to reach out to me and say, hey, this isn't in our workflow. This isn't in our knowledge base. How do you want to handle it? Is that correct?
Or because they've been doing that job as like more than you have after a few months, it might not be, how do I handle it? It's like they come to you and say, listen, I'm handling it this way. I just want to double check that that's okay with you. If it is
even better. That's even
I love
better
that. I love that. Yeah. So Yaro, I got a question for you. So, I mean, I shouldn't say most people separate their business and personal emails, because a lot of times I get stuff in that's both. What do you guys do to protect people's privacy and stuff like that? Just to like, I don't want to bring up like the email scandal with John Gruden and the Washington Redskins, all that kind of stuff, but like protect the privacy.
What are you talking about? I don't know about that. What are you talking
about? John Gruden was the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, but back when he was an analyst for ESPN, they did this big investigation and some emails leaked where he said some racially insensitive stuff, and he pretty much got fired. And so I'm just curious, like thinking of email privacy and the stuff because sometimes people send stuff to you and you're like, dude, that's off color. Like I just delete it or put it in spam or something. But
do you remember when email used to be like the Facebook Messenger? Like every
people,
morning I would get like these whatever videos and like every single morning it was like forward this, forward this, forward this.
It
It
was
was
Some
like
of those
social
are
media. Yeah.
yeah, some of those were pretty insensitive too at the time.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
No, it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
good question, Josh. I mean, my first answer is probably don't write racial
Well,
emails.
right, of
It's just
course.
avoid being a racist
Yeah.
and
Yes.
but
Step
yeah.
one, be a good person.
Yeah.
Step two, yeah, there's obviously always going to be emails though that are more sensitive to your company than others or situations
Well, like
or
you mentioned you mentioned the example of financials and
yeah.
venture capitals, like stuff like that, where it's maybe it's not insensitive, but it's very sensitive company information, and making sure that that doesn't get out, or when people are going back and forth on like your secret sauce type of stuff, right? Like the stuff that people don't want anyone to know about. How would a client of yours make sure that they're just protected, I
Yeah.
guess, if they worked with you?
And also, are you like how do you get comfortable with this too, because this is an interesting thing we've noticed. Some of the people who hire us like that we're separate from their actual company. We're an external person
Yeah,
going
yeah,
in.
yeah. That's a
They
good
don't
point.
yeah, they don't like having, say, an EA that works with them face to face seeing their email,
Mm,
but they're happy
sure.
having a third party do it. So there's a reason to have those kind of walls up. And like you said, family members might be emailing personal things about family situations that you don't want other people to
Yeah.
know. So um, we have basics, like we use a VPN for protecting data. We have
Mm,
LastPass for protecting passwords and sharing and access to your email account. But at the end of the day, you are letting another human being into your inbox. They are going to see what's going to hit that. So you might decide, we call this siloing. If there is certain information that needs to not be seen by us, for example, then we can create a separate email account and make sure that those types of emails are siloed and only you go in there and only you reply to that. It could be family, it could be medical information, it could be legal information, especially with doctors and lawyers type
yeah.
clients. That's become important. We have an NDA. We can obviously sign one from tailored to your company. But what I found, and I'll say this from experience, the best way to do this is to enter the world of having someone handle your email in a way that you feel comfortable. So if there are some situations where you just don't want people to be involved with, don't hand over those tasks. Let that, maybe it's not even personal, but you just don't want someone else to deal with those messages. We'll create a Josh folder. We'll
Mhm.
put those ones in there and we won't touch them. We don't want to risk making a mistake. There's other tools like DocSend, which allows you to control who opens up a attachment to an email and those sorts of things. So we can put barriers. But from my experience, the way I went through this was I handed over day-to-day emails first to my assistant. This is my other teaching coaching business. And then after about maybe 6 months, when I was like, okay, I've seen how you reply to messages. I've seen how you communicate with me. I like the brain that you've got, like the attention to detail, the emotional empathy, the way you think and how we communicate. I start to trust you to do this role. Then I go, you know what? I feel comfortable enough. I'm giving you access to my PayPal account now because I want you to be able to process refunds, do upgrades, look into customer records. I had another system. It was an email CRM sort of system as well. Day one, I might not hand over the keys to that because at the end of the day, they can see every single customer record, potentially,
Hmm.
Yeah.
wreak havoc in there. But once I feel they're part of the team and the trust has been built, then I will start to integrate them into that space as well. So, you go as far as you're comfortable with. Everyone's different. Some people never feel comfortable with certain aspects. Some people from day one, they say, here's my credit cards, go buy stuff,
That's me.
So yeah. But the important part is, and this is why our company isn't the cheapest virtual assistant company. We take everyone through a 10-step hiring, testing, vetting, training, and then an internal course that my co-founder created. She was the first ever, in email assistant. So they go through all that. Then they're paired with like a junior senior situation with, like I told you, we have 2 people per client. So they're going to be learning from someone who's already done this. So there's a very nice gradual progression to the point where they get really confident in what they're doing. They know how to work with a client. And honestly, I can tell you guys, this is a human being to human being business. The variables with human beings working for other human beings are infinite and
Yeah.
complex. And, we try and match things like personality. Like this is as crazy as, do you put a Democrat leaning email assistant with a hardcore Republican client? What's going to happen in that situation, you know?
Right.
So
I can't imagine that going badly.
yeah. So we have to consider those elements too. Even something as simple as, are you the kind of person who likes, doesn't like the niceties, doesn't want the please and thanks you? It's just like, go do this now, go do this now. And that can be like hurtful for a very sensitive person who might want those kind of, gentle interactions.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So little nuances like that. Our team, we've got a matching manager. Her name is Laura. And that's what she does all day, is trying to make sure that people aren't going to be emotionally scarred from this interaction with each other. So
interesting. Wow. This is very cool. I'm glad we were able to get you on the show and talk about this, because email is such, like, I literally was just complaining about this to my wife yesterday, because I'm like, oh my God, I just answered all these emails and now I got a whole nother set. And what happens then is, if I get kind of tired of it, it just sits there, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with it right now. So I'll just move on. And then now I'm stunting progress for clients, for other parts of our business. Right. And having someone that doesn't have that emotional attachment to the email inbox, where it's not like, oh my God, these won't stop coming. It's like an onslaught. I think is a very interesting topic. So I appreciate you being on the show and sharing what you guys do.
No problem. You nailed probably the main benefit. It's just the mental relief of knowing it's someone else's job. And I don't have to worry about missing something important. I don't have to worry about dealing with the mundane day to day. It's someone else's job.
You're not sleeping or dreaming about
email replies.
Email. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not the top of your mind.
Or waking up in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom, be like, oh, email, I got to check this, and try to write it when my eyes are half open.
Yeah.
100%.
So true.
Yaro, we really appreciate you being on the show. If there's when people want to reach out to you, where's the best way for that to happen?
Yeah, inboxdone.com. Just head to the website. You can read about how we work, what we do, and then just book a discovery call, and we'll do a Zoom call and talk about your needs, and you'll be probably talking to me.
Cool deal. I appreciate that. Anybody that's listening to the show, if you found value in the show, please help us out too. Leave a 5-star review and share your thoughts. If it's going to be a 3-star, don't leave it. If it's a 4-star, 5-star, yes. If it's a 3, if it's a 4-star, you can leave Josh's name. If it's a 5-star, you can leave mine. But yeah, so we really appreciate everybody checking out this episode. And I know this is kind of a pain point for people, but it's something that we're thankful that there's people out here like you, Yaro, that can solve that and really take care of a stressor that we've created. We built this stressor on ourselves, and you're here to solve it for us and solve that problem. Guys. But yeah, we appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.